Welcome, and thank you everyone for joining us today for this webinar. My name is James Lewis, and I'm the Director of Sales at Winvale. We have an impressive group of companies participating today. Before I introduce our speakers for today, just a couple of words about me. For those of you who don't know me, I've spent the last decade supporting the needs and requirements of federal government agencies. I've recently joined Winvale as the Director of Sales, and I'm excited about leveraging my government experience in order to help organizations such as yours succeed in government contracting. I will be following up with you after the webinar to introduce myself and ensure we have answered all of your questions. So without further ado, let me introduce David Zondi and Patrick Dalton to you. Please submit your questions in the questions module on the right-hand side of your screen. David Zondi currently serves as the managing partner of Winvale, where he is responsible for the team's overall commercial strategy and sales. In this role, he leads a team of highly experienced business development and sales professionals in recruiting new clients and partners. In addition, David and his team are responsible for client education and collaboration with a strong emphasis on customer service and transparency. Patrick Dalton currently serves as Winvale's Business Development Practice Lead, where he is responsible for supporting all business development activities within the practice. In this role, he is instrumental in developing relationships on behalf of Winvale's clients and assuring that their federal government efforts are clearly defined and executable. In addition, Patrick and his team are responsible for marketplace research and opportunity identification. Their work includes both large and small businesses spanning a multitude of industries. David, the webinar is yours.
Thank you, James. We're excited to present Getting on the GSA Schedule, an Era of Sequestration. Our agenda is as follows: the impact of the sequester on federal competition in business, why the GSA Schedule contract is a preferred government procurement vehicle, what getting on a GSA schedule can provide for your business, how to get on a GSA schedule, acquisition versus partnering, ways to utilize a GSA schedule to take advantage of federal spending. Patrick will begin by discussing the impact of the sequester on federal competition and business. Patrick?
Thank you, David. The Budget Control Act of 2011, or the BCA, is what created the sequester. The BCA was created as a backstop that was intended to force the Joint Select Committee on Deficit Reduction, also known as the Supercommittee, into action. With the failure of the Supercommittee, those automatic spending reductions were set into motion, scheduled to reduce approximately $1 trillion from the federal budgets between FY13 and FY21. The fiscal cliff deal was struck on New Year's Day, known as the American Taxpayer Relief Act of 2012, or the ATRA. The ATRA reduced the size of the fiscal year 2013 sequester by $24 billion. It reduced it from $109 billion to $85 billion, and it also lowered the Budget Control Act pre-sequester caps on discretionary appropriations for FY13 and FY14 by $4 and $8 billion respectively. The fiscal year 2013 sequester took effect on March 1st and is currently in the process of reducing approximately $80 billion in an across-the-board fashion, all non-exempt discretionary or annually appropriated and mandatory spending programs. However, for fiscal year 2014, mandatory programs will continue to be reduced in the same automatic manner. Appropriators are simply given top-line discretionary caps, one for defense discretionary and another for non-defense discretionary spending, and the power to distribute the mandatory reductions as they please. This means that unlike the chainsaw that was used in FY13 to make the cuts, Congress will have a scalpel for the FY14 cuts, so long as the sum of their individual subcommittee bills stays within those caps, which totals $967 billion. Any rearrangement of programs or account appropriations is allowed. Additional FY 2014 sequester outcomes are $109.3 billion must be reduced from the FY14 budget, half from defense programs and half from non-defense programs. Each of the defense and non-defense reductions is then allocated between discretionary spending and mandatory accounts that are not explicitly exempted. The reductions to discretionary funding are enforced by lowering the distinct statutory BCA caps on defense and non-defense discretionary appropriations by a total of $90.5 million. The reductions to mandatory funding are carried out just like in FY13 through uniform percentages across-the-board cuts to projected spending for all non-exempt programs, except that cuts to Medicare providers and plans and certain small mandatory health programs are limited to 2%. Cuts to the mandatory portion of funding for Indian health and community and migrant health centers are also limited to 2%. Therefore, on October 1st, the start of FY14, the ongoing reductions to non-exempt mandatory programs will continue, except that their magnitude will jump to 7.2% from the current 5.1% for the programs where cuts are not limited to 2%. A significant majority of mandatory spending will continue to be exempt from sequestration. Some of those programs are Social Security retirement programs, veterans benefits, earned income tax credit, child tax credit, Medicaid, Children's Health Insurance Program, Standard Unemployment Insurance, food stamps or the SNAP program, temporary assistance for needy families, and a host of other programs, many of them part of the safety net, are all exempt from the sequester. As you can see from the chart, the statutory caps post-sequester for discretionary spending for non-defense and defense are $496.4 billion and $498.1 billion, respectively. You can see these numbers in the last column of the slide. As we discussed in the previous slide, for discretionary funding, lawmakers already know the statutory limits under which they are required to appropriate. Again, $498.1 billion for defense and $469.4 billion for non-defense. Therefore, they have the ability to allocate reductions in a more rational manner than in FY13. The Senate and House budgets are $91 billion apart on FY14 appropriations and exemplifies the abyss that we have to cover. So what happens if lawmakers are unable to reach an agreement on discretionary appropriations at the reduced statutory cap levels and instead pass a continuing resolution at higher levels? Unless the BCA is also modified, an across-the-board sequester, just as indiscriminate as the FY13 sequester, would take effect to eliminate any breach above each of the caps. Any sequester of discretionary funds, however, wouldn't begin until 15 days after Congress adjourns, most likely meaning January, setting up another potential period of substantial uncertainty for federal agencies, grant recipients, and the broader economy. The chart shows you the sequester impact on FY13 and FY14, and also it shows you the current Senate and House budget. With all that said, and taken into consideration that the fiscal year 2013 sequester is still underway, and the fiscal year 2014 budget has not yet been approved, we can definitively say, one way or another, what the impact of the FY13 sequester will be on the federal market. We can, however, say that government expenditures for Q1 and Q2 of FY 2012 and FY 2013 are nearly equal. It is our opinion that the GSA Schedules programs will maintain its position as a premier procurement vehicle with a significant chance for growth in the era of sequestration. This opinion is based on the fact that the schedule programs offers a fast, easy, and effective contracting vehicle for both government and commercial vendors. Now let's give it over to David, who will discuss why the GSA Schedule contract is a preferred government procurement vehicle.
What is the GSA Schedule? The General Services Administration created the Multiple Award Schedule for the federal government and other qualified entities to purchase products and services. GSA contracts offer government customers direct delivery of commercial supplies and services at discount pricing. Contracts with commercial firms have 4 5-year option terms equaling up to 20 years. GSA multiple award schedules are IDIQ contracts, which means they do not have buying limitations. GSA multiple award schedules are also government-wide. The GSA Multiple Award Schedule program allows commercial companies to establish a government contract with all federal government agencies. In return, your company must be willing to pre-negotiate or discount its commercial pricing for its products and/or services. As stated before, GSA Schedule contracts are one of the most widely used government contracts currently available. There are 39 different GSA schedules encompassing everything from information technology to furniture, communications and media, management consulting, building supplies, sporting goods, and more. GSA schedule sales for FY 2012 came in at $37 billion. Current number of GSA contractors is just over 22,000, and the average sales per GSA contractor is at 1.7 million. In a study entitled Impact of FAR 8.4, Comparative Analysis of Customer Elapsed Time Savings, it takes a federal agency an average of 15 days to issue an order under a GSA schedule. This compares to an average of 268 days for a non-GSA open market contract. Again, all federal government agencies are familiar with it, and it's a fast and effective manner to do business with the agencies. In many instances, it's a requirement. This slide shows the top GSA schedules based on their sales for the fiscal year 2012. The information technology contract for both products and services, Schedule 70, was above $15 billion at $15.3 billion. Management consulting and training, Schedule 874, often referred to as MOBIS, was at $4.8 billion. The professional engineering services contract, Schedule 871, was at $2.8 billion. Law enforcement equipment, Schedule 84, or Total Solutions for Law, was $2.4 billion. Financial services, or FABs, Schedule 520, was $1.4 billion. Furniture, Schedule 71, $1.2. And logistics services, Schedule 874, Roman numeral 5, was at $1.1 billion. So why use a GSA schedule contract? First off, it's the best price for customers. GSA simplifies federal procurement by negotiating large multi-user contracts and by leveraging the volume of the federal government to drive down prices. GSA has already negotiated fair and reasonable pricing, so government buyers can benefit from shorter lead times, lower administrative costs, reduced inventories, and compliance with environmental, socioeconomic laws, and procurement regulations. It's also one of the quickest ways to order, as stated before. Contracting officers can order directly from the GSA contract holder. Depending on the dollars, the contracting officer must research or solicit 3 to 5 other GSA contract holders' bids. By placing an order against a GSA schedule contract, the government buyer has concluded that the order represents the best value and results in the lowest overall cost alternative to meeting the government's needs. GSA e-buy, eligible federal agencies can request a quote and submit it through the e-buy system, where different contract holders will receive a notification via email. Section 873 requires fair notice to be given to all contract holders prior to placing an order above $150,000. GSA e-buy meets the standard of providing fair notice to all contractors because all vendors offering the required supplies and/or services are able to review the request for a quote. The use of e-buy is the easiest way to meet competition requirements. Blanket purchase agreements, or BPAs as they're often referred to, are simplified methods of filing anticipated repetitive needs for services and products. BPAs are charge accounts that ordering offices establish with GSA schedule contractors to provide themselves with an easy ordering tool. In addition, the ordering office reduces the administrative burden of writing numerous task or delivery orders, while still being able to order as much as it wants, as often as it wants. The benefits of using a BPA include the ability to satisfy recurring requirements, reduce acquisition costs through quantity discounts, save time by eliminating repetitive individual purchases and payments, reduce administrative efforts and paperwork, and obtain better value by leveraging an ordering office's buying power through volume purchasing. Contractor teaming agreements, or CTAs as they're often referred, are when two or more GSA schedule contractors work together by complementing each other's capabilities to offer their customer a total solution. Contractor team arrangements or agreements provide a win-win situation for both GSA schedule contractors and the government buyer themselves. GSA schedule contractors may compete for schedule orders for which they may not independently qualify. Government buyers may procure a total solution rather than making separate buys for each part of a requirement. Participation in a teaming agreement is limited to a specific bid opportunity, and each contractor is responsible for reporting their part of the sale. The U.S. Trade Agreements Act is intended to foster fair and open international trade. TAA requires that products be produced or have undergone substantial transformation within the United States or a designated country. The People's Republic of China and some other major players in manufacturing are notably absent from the list of designated countries, which makes supplying TAA-compliant equipment much more difficult. So when does TAA apply? Compliance to TAA is often built into GSA schedules, IDIQ contracts, and most Department of Defense contracts. In accordance with TAA, only U.S.-made or designated country end products shall be offered and sold under schedule contracts. That means all products offered under GSA schedule contracts must be TAA compliant regardless of cost. Does TAA apply if I'm not a contractor? If you don't have a GSA schedule contract but sell to government contractors, you'll increasingly find that they won't buy products that are not TAA compliant. With these compliance issues coming to the forefront of contractors' consciousness, you need to understand that TAA products are necessary and products must be compliant. How do I know whether a product is TAA compliant? Determining TAA compliance isn't as simple as looking at a made-in stamp. Complex issues of substantial transformation during the manufacturing process can affect whether a product is compliant. It may not be practical or even possible for contractors to go through every product they sell to determine compliance. It is more cost-effective and reliable to source products directly from manufacturers that possess the detailed product knowledge and supply chain control required to verify TAA compliance. If you supply products to the government or government contractors, you need to make sure those products are TAA compliant. Penalties for non-compliance are prohibitively expensive, and the best way to ensure compliance is to source products made by reputable manufacturers capable of being certified. There are three ways to sell to the U.S. government, including sell direct, sell with, and sell through. Keep in mind that when selling into the government, you'll have more hurdles and a longer sales cycle to deal with than you're accustomed to in the commercial market. Sell direct. This is when you contract directly with the government agency. This requires that you build a relationship with the key decision makers for the solutions that you wish to sell. Not all decisions are made by the Washington, D.C. headquarters. Some are made by the regional or local office. For example, the Veterans Affairs Hospital has the authorization to make a lot of purchasing decisions using local leadership. Sell through. Sell through will allow your company to act as a subcontractor and utilize an existing relationship held by a prime contractor. The prime contractor allows you to sell through their existing contract. This is a great avenue to build experience and introduce your company to the government as a new vendor. Before you introduce yourself to a prime contractor, you need to understand the contract you're discussing. Some of the key information to know is the contract number itself, the period of performance, the contract value, the completed task orders. You also must be able to clearly articulate your value proposition to the prime contractor and what you can bring to the engagement. Sell with. Sell with is when two or more contractors come together to meet a particular need. This is considered teaming. Teaming allows for multiple businesses to come together and compete for larger, more complex contracts. When considering a teaming partner, it is important to have an understanding of all of their capabilities and experience. This will allow for a cohesive response to the government. So what does a GSA schedule provide your business? It's a de facto contract. No other government contract gives a contractor the depth and breadth of coverage. Every federal agency, and in some instances state and local agencies, can buy off the GSA schedule, regardless of geography. Ease of entry. The ease of the entry is to the market relatively little for your company. It's information provided to the agency for evaluation and the ability for them to consider a best value determination. It's also a significant source of revenue. Over the last 4 fiscal years, GSA contracts have averaged $38 billion annually. And it's a simplified acquisition. You also gain access to exclusive GSA-only opportunities. As referenced before in eBuy, you get notices sent to you that are exclusive to GSA contractors. Further, a GSA schedule helps to avoid open market competitions, simplifies proposal responses, minimizes complex contracting issues, provides marketing cachet and a stamp of approval, as well as marketing support overall. So what are some of the ways to utilize a GSA schedule? We all know the first rule in business is to know your customer, and this is especially true in the government market. The government knows it's different, and it wants to be treated different than a normal commercial account. That's why many companies will make sure their marketing documents, website, and overall messaging have a focus tailored to the government agency. It's also important to consider utilizing search engines and optimize your content, as the government uses the search engine the same way a commercial entity would. The next point is to make sure that you understand the agency's mission. A successful contractor never forgets the mission of the agency that they are selling to and how their capabilities or solution will support that mission. The last point discusses the importance of technology and how the government views it as an investment and a way to be more efficient. Acquisition.gov is where you can find links to specific agencies' annual procurement forecasts, information for small businesses, business opportunities, and links to other key information. FBO, or Fed Biz Ops, is where you can find procurement opportunities for the federal government. Government users post details of opportunities at FBO.gov. Vendors can search for particular opportunities that meet their particular criteria or capabilities and then apply for those. All federal opportunities posted are over 25,000. That are over 25,000 must be posted on FBO.gov. USAspending.gov and FPDS.gov are both places where you can find historical contract information. These websites allow you to search for a specific contract, historical agency spends, and gain an understanding of your government competitors with historical contract award information. It's also important to talk and meet with decision makers. The agencies will have small business vendor sessions, industry days, trade shows, and events, and opportunities to partner with associations is important. Attending these is a great way to introduce yourself to decision makers and listen to them speak about current issues within their agency. This will allow you to position your pitch and build a relationship within that particular office. Now let's discuss how to get on a GSA schedule. When pursuing a GSA schedule, you have two options to consider, including acquiring your own GSA schedule or using an existing company's contract. When pursuing your own contract, it usually takes between 5 to 6 months to get on the contract. In some situations, it can be longer, and in others, it can be shorter. With your own GSA schedule, you will gain access to government requests for purchases. You will also not have to share a portion of your sales with any third parties, depending on how your sales channel is constructed. Winvale has helped more than 1,000 companies acquire their GSA schedules, encompassing nearly all 39 GSA schedule contracts. Some of the pros to acquiring your own schedule include maintaining pricing and channel control, 100% of the sale going back to you. Some cons include some audit exposure and the ability or speed by which you get access to the contract, approximately 5 months to market. If you're using an existing company's contract or partnering, you'll most likely benefit from this approach if you're selling products that you manufacture. If you want to consider this option, you should go to GSA's e-library of contractors and identify similar or complementary companies. You'll need to approach them asking them to consider adding your products to their GSA schedule. In some cases, there are companies set up to exclusively act as a government distributor or reseller. Pros of partnering are the reduction in audit exposure, the speed to market, or approximately 2 months to get onto a schedule. Some of the cons include loss of pricing and channel control, and some portion of the sale going to your partner. So with all that said, what does it mean? The numbers don't lie. This graph illustrates federal spending prior to the sequester and the out years through 2021. The government will continue to be the Fortune 1 customer, regardless of the current budget situation. With over 10 years in business as both a consultancy and a contractor, we're optimistic about the future and the potential that this market provides. This now concludes our presentation. We'll open it up for discussion and questions and answers.
Thank you for attending the presentation. We would now like to address any of your questions. We have received a few beforehand and during the presentation. We'll try to answer some of them now. Question 1. What do you recommend once I get on a GSA schedule?
You should start to develop an understanding of the marketplace, including your competitors, partners, and teaming companies, and also which agencies have high spend on your solutions.
Thank you, Pat. Question 2. What is required when partnering for a GSA schedule?
Pretty straightforward question. Getting onto an existing contract requires that the manufacturer provide the contract holder a letter of supply, their commercial price list with invoices, and of course some marketing or technical materials. Besides that, that's really all that's necessary.
Thank you, David. The third question, and the last one that we've received so far, is when acquiring a GSA schedule, don't I have to give my lowest price ever?
It's a great question. No, not entirely. GSA is looking to understand how you treat your commercial customers and negotiate a discount that's equal to or better than your most favored commercial customer. The most favored commercial customer should be like and similar to that of GSA, in that they purchase and consume the solutions.
We've received one more question. How many subs can a prime GSA contract holder have on an existing contract?
This is a great question. So a prime contractor can have technically as many subs as they want on the existing contract. It just depends on what task orders and the length of time that's left on the existing contract. So for example, if there were 3 years left on the contract and there were known to be at least 10 more task orders to that, the prime contractor could go out and get as many subs as necessary in order to complete the task order. However, keep in mind that the more subs a prime contractor has will determine on how successful that contract will be. You should have as many subs as needed, and they should go after as many subs that are needed, but they should also limit it to the complexity of the contract at hand.
The next question. My understanding is that depending on the multiple award schedule contracts, it can take more than a year.
In some instances, the particular GSA office or region that's managing a particular contract, they're taking upwards of a year and sometimes 18 months. On average, it shouldn't be that long, but because of the influx of new contractors or requests to become a new contractor, schedules like Schedule 84, which is the Total Solutions for Law Enforcement, Schedule 56, which is building materials, and a couple of others are taking upwards of a year.
The next question, where do you start the process to get on the GSA schedule?
If you go to GSA eLibrary, and I'll repeat the web address, it's www.gsa, E as in Edward, library.gsa.gov. Again, www.gsaelibrary.gsa.gov. If you go there, you'll see on the right-hand side a link to contract numbers. You'll also see industry or different technologies and products listed. You can click those links and it should take you to the schedule listing. There you'll find a link to a solicitation where you can download the application itself.
The next question, how do the small business caveats, for example, service disabled, veteran-owned small business, apply to the GSA schedules?
Federal contract has a goal of applying 23% of all federal contracts to small businesses. The GSA schedule has the same requirements. It also allows you to list yourself as a service-disabled veteran-owned small business on your GSA schedule or any of the other set-asides that are available. In doing so, you are able to compete for business that is just for you, and it would enable you to act as a prime contractor to a large corporation such as Northrop Grumman.
It looks like that's all of our questions. So I just want to thank you all for your participation and attention. We really appreciated the questions that were submitted and look forward to being able to touch base with you all individually after the call. I'd like to just say a quick thank you to David and to Patrick and to everyone else who was involved. Your participation was appreciated.